How's it going, YouTube? This is Undying out, bringing you another video. I was going to say custom showcase, but this is not a custom showcase. So I've had the idea of showing you what stuff I use for my painting. So without further ado, let's get into it. So on the right hand side you have all the acrylic paints that I use hand painting, and on the left you have the airbrush paints. So the normal paints I use, or hand paints I use, is Citadel paints. Just got a variety of random ones I picked up, and Army Painter. I know that Citadel is worldwide, but I do not know if Army Painter is UK only, but I'm not sure which. I think I use Citadel more, but I like the dropper bottles of the Army Painter. So yeah, that's what I use for hand painting, and I've started to use model colour a lot, as it feels like they've been pre-thinned, so you don't have to mix it with a medium or water. And I've used this a lot, especially on the clone troopers that you'll see in the coming days. In fact, this is the exact colour I used for the 501st to cover up the parts where I messed up the decal. And then for my palette, I use the Army Painter wet palette. That's upside down. The Army Painter wet palette. So what it is, oh no, that's the paint rack, the paintbrush rack. So this is what it's like. You've probably seen it a lot before, but there's a foam sheet underneath here, and then you put, like, I think some type of paper, which Army Painter provide. I think I got this for 20 quid, so it was worth it for me. And basically, instead of just having your paints dry out in an hour, they last like a good few days, like maybe even a weekend. I think the longest it's lasted is about 4 days for me. And obviously it won't last if you don't close up the lid. So once you're done with the paints, you just put the lid back on, and it will just keep the paint from drying for a few days longer than it would do if you just had it exposed to the air and stuff. So yeah, that's what I use to thin my paints. And then for the airbrush, I use Vallejo Model Air. Not sure why I got these colours out, because I've never used them in my life, but this is the brand I use. And I use a Vallejo Thinner as well, sometimes, but not often. And occasionally I get a Citadel airbrush colour as well. And I haven't used this as much, but I have used it for Boba Fett that I've done a few months ago, and something else that I'm forgetting. I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, so, and speaking of Vallejo, this is what I use to matte varnish my figures. So as you saw recently, matte varnished the clone troopers. Like here he is, on the matte varnished. And also Civil Warrior, he was matte varnished. It looks a lot more shiny on camera, but that's because it's under high light, but naturally it looks a lot more matte coloured. And on top of using this, I also use the Vallejo gloss varnish for armours and eyes. What else do I use it for? Probably some other stuff, shields and stuff, weapons. Yeah, and as well as this, I used the Vallejo Thinner, Airbrush Thinner, and that is just to thin out the paints further if they're clogging up the airbrush. And then lastly, I can't remember where I get this from, pretty sure it's eBay, but this is the airbrush cleaner I use. It's a spray can with a nozzle, and this just cleans out the airbrush way more than Vallejo one does. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this little insight into my workshop. If you like this kind of video, give me suggestions on what else I can do. I was thinking maybe tips and tricks, but then I don't know how I'd be able to film it, as there's a car going past. Fantastic. Right, as I was saying, yeah, so I don't know if you would like custom tips on how to paint, but that might be a struggle because I don't know how I'd be able to film my desk, as my desk is always very messy. and if you're also a painter, you know that your desk gets messy so quickly. So anyway, enough rambling from me. If you like the video, hit dislike. Hit the dislike. Yep, sure, we'll go with that. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you didn't, hit dislike. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. How's it going? Blech.